Out here, it'd be just ruined. It was sterilized. There was no vegetation whatsoever.
Their livestock have grazed the high plains of eastern New Mexico for generations, but the domestic energy boom of the past decade has some ranchers saying, there goes the neighborhood. Since Carl and Justin Johnson lease grazing land from the state, the cattlemen can't prevent oil companies from drilling there. And the side effects on the land have been disenchanting.
They just don't give a damn. The oil companies, they could do what we ask them to do, and it wouldn't even make a blip on their expense sheet.
5 years ago, a ruptured pipe released 420,000 gallons of oil field wastewater here. The salty byproduct killed off vegetation, leaving the acreage desolate. The accident was just one of dozens the ranchers say they've endured, spending tens of thousands of dollars trying to rein in oil and gas drillers for alleged practices that can kill wildlife and threaten freshwater supplies.
See over there, this is all saltwater disposal leaks.
An Associated Press analysis of data from leading oil and gas-producing states found over a 6-year period 180 million gallons of wastewater, or brine, was discharged. And while oil spills capture the most attention, brine can be more damaging. In the AP study, several cases recorded wastewater levels double those of oil.
Brine spills are a huge issue. Anywhere that you have oil and gas production, you're going to have releases.
Soil experts say oil is eventually absorbed via natural processes, but salt-saturated ground dries up, kills plants, and prevents new growth.
Basically, that land that's been impacted has been taken.
It will recover, but it'll probably take about 5 years before we start really growing anything right in this area.
In Texas, the country's top oil-producing state, soil tainted by brine spills in 2012 is finally showing signs of life.
The pipeline ruptured over here. It flowed through the terrace system out into my field, and then it started draining out of the field, and then the salt stayed on the surface to a certain extent, causing the damage out here.
Meanwhile, in drought-stricken California, the Kern River oil field churns out $15 billion in annual oil revenue. Kern County is the #1 oil-producing county in the nation, and the Golden State's oil industry faces scrutiny for its use of natural resources.
Primary use in the water in the oil industry is to generate steam. Most people think it's a pool, but it's not. It's in the sand. Put a little steam in it, drive it through the sand, and so that increases your production from 25, and some people say they can get 65% of what's down there.
Kern County could be called a case study of how sometimes oil and water do mix. Unlike fracking, which uses water, sand, and chemicals to flush oil to the surface quickly, steam injection coaxes sluggish crude out of the ground. But oil isn't the only commodity on tap.
When they pump oil, the oil is down in the formation. It's oil and water. And so when they pump the oil out, they pump out 1 part oil, 10 parts water.
The problem is what to do with all that water. It can be injected at high cost below existing aquifers. Or, as in the case of Coelho Water District, oil field water can be cleaned and blended with other sources to provide desperately needed irrigation water.
It's a lot cheaper, and we'd be missing out on a lot of water, especially in a year like this. It's half of our supply this year. So if we didn't have this water, we'd be pulling crops out, and farmers would be going out of business.
For over 20 years, the utility, serving roughly 90 farmers on 34,000 acres outside Bakersfield, has brought water from the area's top oil producer into agricultural use. Chevron Corporation uses gravity separation technology and walnut shell filters to remove as much oil and impurities as possible. The resulting produced water is delivered via pipeline to Coelho Water District, where it is cleaned again and mixed with existing water. The extra 65 acre-feet per day provides insurance, while regular sources taper off from drought.
What this project does is it reduces our pressure on the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, and it's also reducing the draw upon our groundwater.
Coelho's end product is tested by the state. But recent media reports implied findings by environmental activists showed the water and food grown with it might not be safe.
The sodium is around maybe 140 to 160 milligrams per liter. Most agricultural products like it less than 160. So we blend that down and get it down to good irrigation quality. It does have some other chemicals in it, but they are well below the drinking water standards.
Chevron refuted the negative reports, which the oil company discredited through scientific testing of its own. But California's Regional Water Quality Control Board is collecting data independently to verify the information. And both Chevron and Coelho are eager for the agency's report.
We're waiting for the state to really come out and give us that clean bill of health.
It's safe. I don't think you would want to drink it every day, you know, but we haven't seen any problems with our trees. There's trees and vines out here that's been here for many, many years using that water.
Roy Perucci manages an 80-acre pistachio farm in Coelho Water District. He says produced water from Chevron has been a trusted source for his operation, which uses 100 million gallons of water per year.
You're never going to find a risk-free form of energy, whether we're talking renewables or fossil fuel development.
Oil byproducts have been both blessing and curse in rural America. And fossil fuel advocates say even though domestic energy production is up, wastewater spills, by proportion, are down.
The men and women who work in the oil and gas industry are absolutely committed to spill prevention. They live in these communities. They want their environment to be preserved as well.
Oil companies pay to clean up spills, but it's the law in most states. And even though the threat of wastewater hazards can be mitigated, these New Mexico ranchers fear the land will never be the same. For Market to Market, I'm Josh Bittner.